Okay.
No, because they're season on Facebook. Who signed in?
We'll light the book, the
book? You're
candle.
gonna light the book? Here.
This is the first Motzei Shabbat of the year, Shabbat Bereshit. So nice to start up again, to see everyone
Here, you want to hold the candle?
together.
Here, hold the candle.
Make sure it's seen
It has
inside.
to, and it has to be on top of the paper.
So you can't TikTok it.
Havdallah
Okay,
from
we're all ready, we're all here.
some TikToks.
Riz!
Craig's to Rabbi Moshe. Chabad TMR.
I'm gonna pull out the green sitter. Where is it? Be careful, be careful. Pinchas, be careful.
Do you want me to go with the candle?
Okay,
Move closer.
Yeah, but it's gonna.
here, so put this here and stand on top.
Hi El Yeshua Siyaftach V'lo Yevchad Ki Yaziv Zimras Yo Adonai Vayehi Li Shua Oshiyafte Mayim Besasai Mi Mainei HaYeshua Ladoyinoi HaYeshua Alamcha Birchasecha Sela Adonai Tzevaos Imanu Mizgav Lanu Elahei Yaakov Sela Adonai Tzvaos Ashrei Adam B'Yitei Yarbach Adonai Hoshia Hamelech Yaneinu Ve'yoim Kareinu La Yehudim Hoysa Vayira V'Siyimcha V'Sa V'Sayin V'Kar Kein Tiyelanu Kaisis V'Isesa O V'Shem Adonai Ekra Sabri Marana Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Bayrei Pri Hagofen Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Bayrei Minei B'samim Ramay la da 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 Ramay la da 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 Ramay la da 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 La da 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 Taray la da 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 Ramay la da 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 Ram Ah da 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 la da 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 la da 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 La da 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 My la da 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 da
Bum 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 bum.
Oh, Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam B'Rei Morei Oesh. Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Hamavdil Ben Kodesh LeChoil Ben Ar LeChayshav Yisrael Lo Amim Ben Yom Hashvi l'sheishes yimei ha'maaseh Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lechayil. Shavua tov, Shavua tov. Good tavach. We're now going to take the blessings for the week. Wisdom, parnasa, wealth, and all beautiful things we should have for this week to start off the year in the most beautiful way. We'll just make the bracha achroina. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ala gefa priya gefa tuvis hasadav l'eretchem ateva chavitzim v'chaltel aviseinu lechem es beim piris beim tivrachem na'an v'leinu shalom echva shleim erechva tzim shgak v'decha v'am v'dechecha v'leichalecha v'nei shleim erechaj v'medi v'medi v'leinu tzachaz v'chein v'rech d'shuv v'tara v'yem shechet shazeh v'chein v'yem shechet shazeh ki atah Adonai tev ma'tev l'kam ne'lecha Today also is Rosh Chodesh. So we wish you Shavua Tov, Good Tavach, Good Chodesh. We're beginning a new month. And I want to share as a story that's connected actually to the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe. And as is known, that by the Rebbe's was a custom that at this Shabbos, when Shabbos Bereshis finishes, is really the close of the holidays of this past month. And they used to wish for all of the people who had assembled and come together for the holiday and those who are spent the holiday together, the V'yalkav halach l'darkei, that now we got to take everything we have gathered together during the holidays and now bring it, infuse our weekly and regular routines with all the spirituality and the holiness and what we learned and what we gained during this time. So I want to share a story with the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, and being the first Chabad Rebbe, there was no established Chabad. Many of the Chassidim that became his followers were people acquired one by one through coming in contact with his greatness, with his holiness. Obviously, there were miracle stories, but even beyond miracle stories is his care for every Jew and his great knowledge of Torah and mastery in that area. So, the Alter Rebbe was a Rebbe in a time when there was a lot of opposition to the Hasidic movement. And the Alter Rebbe used to travel to many cities to hold debates to show that a lot of their accusations are false, and really it's a strong movement within Judaism and not a movement trying to move people away from Judaism. And this is a story about how one of his great disciples became his disciple. His name was Rav Meir Rafals. And the story goes that a woman once came to the Alter Rebbe complaining that her husband disappeared on her. And she is an aguna. She is tied to her marriage with no way out. Because without a get the divorce, how could she ever remarry? And her husband is gone. And it's not the days of email and faxes and telephone and social media and planes and all ways to get there. If someone went missing, you could be tied forever. This was a big issue, especially in Europe or in the earlier ages when someone left, it was very hard to track them down. And this woman comes to the Alter Rebbe complaining that she doesn't know what to do. Her husband left, she doesn't know what to do. So the Alter Rebbe said, travel to Vilna. Vilna was then a part of Russia. Travel to Vilna and God will help you. Now the woman knew no one in Vilna. It was a bit of a trek. But if the Rebbe said travel to Vilna, that's what she's going to do. So she went and traveled to Vilna. She comes to Vilna. Where is she going to stay? So they tell her that one of the people in the community council, one of the leaders of Vilna, Rav Meir Rafals, has an open home. for sure you'll be able to stay by him, and she announces herself at his doorstep, and he invites her in to stay in his household as long as she needs. And he told her, listen, I'll tell you the truth. I heard of the Alter Rebbe. I'm not very fond of him. I'm from those who are opposed to the Hasidic movement. But I'll do anything to help a Jew. And he brought her in. And every few days she used to tell him, I need you to help me. Somehow God brought me here. The Alter Rebbe sent me. I need you to help me find my husband. He says, how can I find your husband? I don't know what to do. There's nothing I can do for you. But if your Rebbe said to come here and you want to be here, you can stay as long as you need. And this went on for a little while. And during the time, she described to him who her husband was and how he looked and everything about him. And she's there for a few weeks and nothing is happening. Then, all of a sudden, one day, the police come to the door of Rabbi Falls, and every once in a while, when they had a number of Jewish prisoners, they used to bring them to the major Jewish cities, and they used to present themselves to the leaders of the Jewish community to try to help them in whatever they needed to deal with these prisoners. So he got a call that there are a number of Jewish prisoners. They want him to come down and to see what he can do to help. So he goes down to the police station. And he sees a number of Jewish prisoners. And as he's looking through the crowd, one of the prisoners fits the description of what the woman said is her husband's description, how he looks. So he said, maybe this is her husband. So he immediately runs back to the house and he says, come with me. And he brings her behind a glass wall, one-way wall that you can only see one-way window. And she looks through the window and she says, that's my husband. That's my husband. She said, wow, that's your husband. So right away, the mayor of Falls goes with her into the room, and he goes to the man, he says, this is your wife? He starts denying it. But the woman says, don't lie, you're my husband. She started to remind him, talk about things that only they would know, who he was, where they lived, and he became very embarrassed. So the mayor of Falls said, what's going on here? So he said, no money, I ran away. So the mayor of Falls said, listen, what we're going to do with you, I don't know. But right now we're going to call in the rabbi and we're going to make a get for your wife. And he made a get for his wife and they got divorced. There's a part 2 to this story. So he was very impressed that the Alter Rebbe somehow was able to see and care about how to help the woman get out of her predicament. About a year later, 2 businessmen, come to Vilna. They ran a big manufacturing plant for metals, and they were hired by the Russian government. They were hired by the Russian government to produce various metals for the army. And what happened was that they were then accused that they were stealing a lot of the material. They weren't delivering according to the orders that they were given. And it was very serious accusations to the point that they would sit with probably their whole life in prison and who knows what else. It was a very, very serious situation. So they didn't know what to do. Vilna was a seat of the government, so they came to Vilna and they met again Rameir Rafal, who was a very important person in the community, and they came, you have to help us. And he listened to their predicament and he said, you guys are in real trouble. I don't think there's anything that I can do to help you in this situation. But he told them a year ago, the story told him about this woman who was Guna and how the Alter Rebbe helped her. He said, I'm not a follower of his, but I saw the story myself. Maybe he can help you. So she goes, these 2 people decide they'll go visit the Alter Rebbe. They go to the visit the Alter Rebbe. They ask for an audience, and they start crying their heart out about the predicament and the situation they're in and how dangerous it is. And the Alter Rebbe says, there's a Talmud. There's a Talmudic statement that says that Malchusa da'arake Malchusa d'Rukeh, the kingdom on earth is like the kingdom in heaven. What does it mean? How's the kingdom of earth similar to the kingdom of heaven? And he said the answer is that just like Hashem is a name, but we refer to him just as king or God, so too a king also has a name. But we don't call him by his name, we call him by his title, king or ruler. And he wished them well. Now these people got very upset. Here, they have a big problem facing them that could put them in prison and put their entire family at stake and lose all their money and who knows what else will happen. And the Alter Rebbe is coming to teach them some Talmud. So they actually left very upset. They came out and they told the people around that maybe the Rebbe doesn't understand their situation. So the people said the Rebbe understands very well. Whatever he told you, hold it dear, it's going to help you. Anyways, they come back to Vilna and they're trying to figure out what to do. So Rameir Rafals tells them, why don't you go, the Minister of Interior, who's the one who's prosecuting you, it's known that he takes a walk in a big park, in a certain park that's held for only officials every single day at a certain time. Why don't you guys somehow jump over the fence, get into that park, and stop him on the way where he is taking his walk and fall in front of his carriage or in front of his entourage and beg him for forgiveness and maybe he'll believe you. So they did that. They went into the park and they go and they lay down on the path to block the road and they see a chariot coming and say, thank God it's going to happen. The Minister of Interior is coming. We'll have our moment. But when the chariot sees people there, it stops. They get up and they run over to the chariot. They say, please, they start begging. We're not liars. We're not thieves. The government is prosecuting us. It's a false claim. Maybe our workers stole. We didn't steal. We didn't steal. So the minister looks at them and says, I think you're looking for the Minister of Interior. But I'm not the Minister of Interior. I'm the Minister of Education. The Minister of Interior is not here today. So they said, they felt so bad. They what's going to be now? Now they're going to look out for these two guys who jumped the fence. They won't let them jump the fence again. But the Minister of Education said, by the way, you look like religious Jews. I have a question. Maybe you can answer me. I studied your Talmud, and I read something in the Talmud. I have no idea what it means. If you help me, maybe I can help you. So they said, sure, tell us. They said, I read in the Talmud, it says that the kingdom of earth is similar to the kingdom of heaven. What does it mean? In what way are they similar, the kingdom of heaven, God and earth? So these two fellows all of a sudden remembered when they were with the Alter Rebbe a few months ago that he explained this piece of Talmud. So I said, sure, we'll tell you exactly what it means. And they go on to explain exactly as the Alter Rebbe said what it means, that you refer to a king by their title, not their name. And the minister said, wow, that's such an incredible answer. I'm so impressed. I'm going to take care of you. I'll talk to the Minister of Interior and I'll tell him I met you guys and you look like honest and good people. And it's a false acquisition against you. And in a short while, the whole thing was fixed up for them. So when they came and told Rameir Rafals the whole story, Rameir Rafals says, now I didn't know who the Alter Rebbe was. But now I see that he's a great man. He's scholarly, he cares about people, he helps people, he directs people in the right way, and he became one of his biggest followers and supporters and really built a Hasidic movement within Vilna as well. And I'm sharing the story now is we're at the beginning of the first week of the year. And we have to know as we go out to be successful in the world, to take all the blessings that God gave us for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchas Torah, and start unpacking them, we have to recognize that the best way to unpack them is through connecting through Torah. These people had a problem, it's Torah that saved them, a Talmudic statement. When the more we connect ourselves to Torah, a few minutes of Torah study every day, strengthening what we do in mitzvahs will help bring all the blessings in the quickest and most fullest way to us. May we have it fully for all of us, health and parnasa and happiness and nachas, and those who need their particular things should have it fully completely. Marriages and children, grandchildren, etc., fully and completely. So Shavuot Tov, we'll finish over with Eliyahu Hanavi. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, B'meira Yavo Eleinu, Mashiach ben David, B'meira Yavai, Yavai Eleinu, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David. Shabbat Tov, we love you all.
So nice to see you all. Love you all.
Chodesh Tov, all the best.
Chodesh Tov to everyone.
By the way, Ellie and whoever else, we're doing our morning prayers on Zoom as well, besides in Shul. So tomorrow morning, Rosh Chodesh, 9 o'clock, or every day of the week, 7:30. You can join in and be along part of our prayers. Be well.
Everyone be well.
Yeah.
You too. See you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Because when you're in the middle of something, you don't come in. And you guys don't have respect. When we're in the middle of doing something, you can...
Where's my key?
Give me 1 second.
It's like a scavenger hunt to find your car key in this house.
You're very impatient. Just relax. It's not a rush.